In this demo, we're now going to enable disk caching on our virtual machine. Let's head over to the Azure portal. Okay, here we are in the Azure portal, and let's go to our virtual machine, SLVM02. This is the machine that we created the extra virtual disk on previously. If we head over to disks, we should see we have our OS disk and a data disk there as well. And if you look below, you can see that host caching is currently set to none. Now there's no option currently in this area to change the host caching, so we need to head over to PowerShell. The first thing we need to do in PowerShell is store our VM as a variable, and to do that we'll need two things: the name of the VM and the name of the resource group that it's in. If you're unsure, just type in get Azure RM VM, and this will list all of your virtual machines and their associated resource groups. As you can see, we have two virtual machines here, both in the resource group SL70533-VMs. So we'll go ahead and store that VM in a variable. $VM, that's our variable. Get Azure RM VM again. The resource group name. Followed by the name of the virtual machine. Okay, if successful, you won't see anything, but you can validate that everything is stored in that variable, but just type in $VM. And we can see that our virtual machine is there. At this point, you can also see a property there called storage profile at the bottom. And inside of that, it contains our image reference, OS disk, and data disks. If we want to access the data disk, simply hit $VM to reference our variable, period, storage profile, period, data disks. This will then list all of the data disks associated with our VM, and in this case we can see our data disk called SLVM02 disk 2, our disk size of 2000 gig, and more specifically what we're focused on here is the caching, which is currently set to none. So now we need to set the caching to read only or read write. In our case we're going to choose read write caching, so we type in set Azure RM VM data disk, the VM variable that we created earlier, the name of the data disk we want to reference, in this case SLVM02 disk 2, followed by the caching mode we wish to choose. So in this case we mentioned we'll use read-write caching. And finally, we need to update the Azure RM VM with this configuration. So we pipe all of that to update Azure RM. Hit enter. And after about 30 seconds, you should get a response that says success true. Now let's go over to the portal and validate that disk caching is now set to read-write on that data disk. And as we can immediately see in the bottom right, host caching is now set to read-write. And that concludes this demonstration.